Okay, so thank you guys so much for tuning in for our class tonight. Like we said, tonight we're going to be painting Garden Gallery, which is a really sweet little floral painting, a painting of a painting, which I think is adorable. I hope you guys all agree. But before we get into our class tonight, like always, I want to go over quickly our supply list so that you make sure you have everything so that you're ready to join us and paint along with us during our class. And also Stephen is in the chat with us. So if you have any questions about the project or any of the products that we're using, you can go ahead and message him in the chat. So without further ado, let's get started. So the FolkArt paints that we're going to be working with tonight are FolkArt Vintage Rose, Hazy Moon, True Blue, Festive Fuchsia, Mossy Meadow, and Vintage White. And we're also going to be using a FolkArt multi-surface color in the color Wisteria. I called for the Michaels Artist Variety Brush Pack, which will work great for our project tonight, an 8x10 stretched canvas, a water basin, a pencil, some scissors, whatever palette you'd like to use. I'm using these styrofoam plates, but a paper plate or some wax-coated palette paper will also be great. And also our free downloadable. So I already went ahead and I cut out the frame. This is what it looks like. And Ilsa is going to put the downloadable in the chat as well if you have trouble finding it. And I also have a heat gun to help us dry our painting throughout the process tonight to help things go a little bit quicker. And like always, if you have trouble keeping up, because we do want to give you all this information in an hour, then again, you can find this recording tomorrow on Michael's YouTube page. So let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, I already went ahead and I cut out our downloadable pattern. It's really just the frame for our gallery. But I wanted to show you guys a tip if you hadn't heard of it before. So of course, one more time, I cut out the frame already. But if you ever want to cut out a big shape like this and still leave the main part of your pattern intact, then what I like to do is I like to fold the shape in half. I'm not making a crease, just enough to where once it's folded, I'm gonna make a slit into the middle portion. So now I have a hole that I can work my scissors through, and you don't have to cut any of the shape. It all stays intact. So you just work your way out to those edges, and then it's really easy to go ahead and trim down from there.
I like that tip. I would have been trying to figure out how to cut that out.
Yeah, right? It's just a neat little trick to have in your wheelhouse. And you could cut through our frame, but you don't have to. All right, so now we have our frame all cut out. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to position it on our canvas so I can get it in the middle as best as we can. That's about good. So next I'm going to take a regular pencil and I am going to trace our frame. All right, Once you've traced the outside, I'm just going to trace the inner rectangle of our frame. Just like that. Now our frame is perfectly transferred to our canvas. Okay, so once you've gone ahead and done that, the next thing we're going to do is I want you guys to picture the inside rectangle of our frame. I want you to picture it into 3 equal parts. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to mark a straight line, marking off about 1/3 from the bottom of our frame. Just like that, okay? All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to have fun with our FolkArt paint. So I'm going to go ahead and apply to my palette some Hazy Moon. Some Mossy Meadow. Our Vintage Tea Rose. And a little bit of Vintage White. Oh, and our multi-surface Wisteria. Alrighty, so taking my number 12 flat, really any medium-sized flat brush, I'm going to dip it into my Hazy Moon, and I'm going to use the Hazy Moon with my flat brush and paint the outside of our painting. So just up to the edge of our picture frame, we're going to paint in with our Hazy Moon. You can see when I'm coming near the edge of our frame pattern, I'm just carefully painting around with it. And then we get to be less careful the further we are, of course, from our frame. I love this Hazy Moon color, though. It's like a really pretty earthy sand. Okay, so once you're done painting the outside of your frame, I'm going to rinse my brush. Dry it with a paper towel. And then I'm going to use still working with my number 12 flat. I'm going to paint the upper portion of the inside of our frame with Mossy Meadow. Okay, so while that mossy meadow is still nice and wet on our canvas, I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to take a paper towel and offload as much of this paint as I can. And then with my still dirty brush, I'm going to dip the tip of it into my vintage white. And in kind of like an X formation, almost like a slip slap back and forth, I go up, down, change directions. I'm incorporating some of that vintage white to give it kind of like a feathered, textured looking background. If you notice that you put a little too much white down, that is totally okay. You can just go back with a little bit more of that mossy meadow on your brush and work that in until you get a color that you're happy with. And you can see too, I'm kind of carefully avoiding those edges. And then I'm going to rinse my brush. Finally, okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of paint mixing. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to take a little dollop of my vintage white and a little dollop of my vintage tea rose. And I'm just now noticing that they are both vintage colors. Very retro. And I'm going to mix about 1 parts vintage tea rose to 2 parts vintage white.
Seems kind of fitting that we're painting a painting, you know,
Yeah, right?
with these vintage colors.
All right. Then once you're done with that mixing, I'm going to make sure that I don't have too much paint on my brush. And I'm going to use that light pink that we just mixed up to fill in the bottom portion of the inside of our frame. Okay. Now, I'm going to rinse my brush again. Make sure it's nice and dry. And then we're going to apply some Wisteria. So to our frame. So the reason that I chose to use a multi-surface formula for our frame as opposed to our regular FolkArt matte is because our FolkArt multi-surface dries to a really beautiful satin finish as opposed to our FolkArt matte, which, like in the name, dries to a beautiful matte finish. I thought that it would give kind of an interesting contrast in our painting tonight. You know, sometimes when you're in an art gallery, the wallpaper or the paint on the wall will have like a very matte um, look and feel to it. A lot of times the paintings will as well, but then you'll have this really striking, shiny or gold or metallic frame that's in between. And I thought that contrast was really interesting. So I thought it'd be fun to play around with that tonight. But of course, if you don't have the wisteria in the multi-surface formula, matte will work just as well for the purpose of tonight's painting. I just saw that comment. Somebody said, I wish I had a steady hand like that. A lot of times my hands shake too, but something that I found that really helps me is if I anchor my arm onto something. So I'll lay a part of my arm totally flat, and then I'm really now just moving my wrist and almost using it as like a pivot. And I find, at least for me, might also be for you as well, that that really gives me a lot of steadiness whenever I'm painting.
Another good tip.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my brush. I'm gonna use my heat gun to dry what is currently going on our canvas. Okay, feels pretty dry. So I am ready to pick up my pencil and about a quarter of an inch from all four sides of the inner part of our frame here. I am going to make some straight lines that are parallel to the lines that make up our frame. And don't worry about your lines being totally straight. You don't feel like you need to break out a ruler. I think part of the fun of this painting is that it looks so whimsical. And I think that even if you don't get the straightest lines that you would want to get, it just really adds to the quirkiness of this painting. All right, so we have those down. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to sketch out a little bit of the accents that we're going to add to our frame. So I'm going to kind of do like a little squiggle filigree pattern here, almost like a French mustache or something. And I'm going to mirror that again on the bottom here. I'm going to make little circles in the middle portions of either side. And then on my corners here, here, here. I have these kind of leafy shapes, almost like paisley. And then some mirrored teardrop shapes. In our corners. This is how we're looking. All right. While I still have my pencil, actually, about less than an inch from the bottom here, I'm going to start to sketch out the bottom of our flower vase or bud vase. So I'm drawing this line right here so that we know kind of where it ends. And then I'm a little less than another third. I'm going to make a small line right here. That's going to be about half the size of the line in the bottom. Like that. And then starting at the top on the left here, I'm going to come down in a swooping motion, creating one side of our bud vase. And then on the opposite side, we're going to mirror that swoop and come down there. And the great thing about sketching with a pencil is that the pencil has an eraser. All right, folks, we're looking good so far. So I'm going to put my pencil down for a moment and I'm going to add some true blue to my palette. And then I'm going to do a little bit more paint mixing. So I'm taking some of my Wisteria, and we're going to mix about a ratio of 2 parts Wisteria to 1 part True Blue to get this really beautiful kind of vibrant periwinkle color. So pretty. And with that vibrant periwinkle, we're going to use this color to paint in all of the little details on our picture frame. So I'm going to rinse my mixing brush, and I'm going to pick up a liner brush now. If you're unfamiliar with a liner brush, it's a teeny tiny little brush that has almost like, looks like it has only a few hairs on the end here of the ferrule. But you can use a liner brush, a round brush, whatever kind of brush you feel comfortable with to make smaller detail work. And we're going to take our brush, and I am going to paint in all of those details that we sketched out with our pencil.
We're using a size 1 or a size 2 line.
This is a size 1. I love parts like these in paintings because it's almost like a paint by number. Now that we've sketched in all of the sketches with our pencil, you don't even have to think. You can turn your brain off and fill in all of these shapes. Just saw that comment, Sandy. This would make a really cute Mother's Day gift. That's a great idea. Don't forget to paint the inside lines where the frame meets the art. All right, painting the outside of our frame here. And another little tip for you guys at home, if you feel like your brush is really dragging, like maybe your paint is drying a little bit more quickly than you would like it to, I like to just dip my brush in my water basin if your water is not too murky looking. If it is, then feel free to just refresh with some cleaner water. But just having a little bit of water on your brush, or really like in the bristles of your brush, helps the paint glide along your canvas so much more smoothly. Okay. Where the kind of like outer box and the inside outline of your frame meet, we're going to create a couple little, or more than a couple, a series of dashes inside to kind of make it look a little whimsical and maybe a little cartoonish even. When I created this painting, some of my coworkers said that it looked kind of reminiscent of a popular 90s sitcom. If you think you know, put it in the comments. The aesthetic of the painting.
Got one guess so far.
Oh, I forgot.
Got several guesses now.
What are the guesses, Stephen?
In living color, friends, Simpsons, we got another guess for Friends.
Those are great guesses. It was Friends. That's what my coworkers said that this painting reminded me of. So good job with all your guessing.
I could totally see the Simpsons there.
Yeah,
some
for
reason.
sure. I've never seen in living color. Have to check it out. Okay, so I'm gonna refresh my palette with some newer colors. I'm just gonna stick this one to the side. It's getting a little crazy. I am gonna add to my palette some vintage white. And I'm gonna go for my number 8 flat brush, and I'm gonna fill in our vase with our vintage white. Okay. Before I rinse my brush, you know what? Yes, before I rinse my brush, I'm gonna do some more color mixing with our vintage white. So again, I'm gonna take some of my vintage white and I'm gonna make a 2-part ratio of the vintage white, 2 parts white to 1 part mossy meadow until we get this really beautiful soft green. And I'm gonna go ahead and rinse my brush. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my pencil and above our vase where we want our floral buds to be, I'm gonna draw 2 circles. So I'm gonna wanna have 1 flower right here. So I'm gonna draw a circle there and another flower right here. So I'm gonna draw a circle there. Okay. And then picking up my number 8 flat again, I'm gonna take this light pink color that we mixed up earlier. And I'm gonna use it to fill in our 2 circles that we just sketched out. Hope it's not giving anyone a headache how often I flip my canvas around. Work smarter, not harder. If your hand wants to move naturally in one way, then move your canvas so it can. That's how you get cleaner lines, in my opinion, at least. Okay, so I'm gonna take that liner brush that we were working with before, and I'm gonna dip it into our soft green color that we mixed up. And from the vase to our circle, we're gonna paint 1 stem, 2 stems, and then get a little bit closer so you guys can get a good look. But we're gonna do kind of like a comma stroke. So like 2 symmetrical commas. And these, of course, are forming our leaves. and then fill in your leaves with that green color. Okay, now I'm going to opt for a bit of a smaller flat brush. This is a number 6 flat. I'm going to take my vintage tea rose that we were working with earlier, and we're going to create a bit of a shadow that's being cast by our flower vase. So starting just ever so slightly above where our vase starts, I'm going to paint a line that's very slightly moving upwards like this. So off to where our vase started, I painted that line going slightly up. I'm going to paint another line kind of right under it. And then a little bit in the front here. That's creating a nice little shadow. Then I'm going to rinse my brush. So by now, our painting should be dry enough to continue, but I just want to be totally sure. So I'm going to dry this a little bit with a heat gun. Alrighty, so one last color that's new. We're going to add a little bit of Festive Fuchsia to the palette. I'm going to pick up my liner brush. And dip it into my Festive Fuchsia. And we're going to make some C strokes in the circles. So starting kind of in the middle, we're making these C strokes. And if you don't know what a C stroke is, it's just like how it sounds. Making strokes that look like C's or commas. And I like to have them, what's the word I'm looking for, Stephen? Where starting and stopping alternatively, so that they're not all starting in the same place and they're not all stopping in the same place.
Staggered.
Staggered, yes. Thank you,
Tina.
Stephen.
That was Tina.
Oh, thank you, Tina.
I was sitting here like.
Yeah, I like to stagger them a little bit just to make it look a little bit more natural. But we're getting something like that. Okay. And truthfully, you don't really need to rinse your liner brush. Just wipe off some of that paint. We're working in the same color family, so it'll be just fine. I'm going to pick up some of my vintage tea rose, and I'm going to just kind of inlay amongst the fuchsia color some of our vintage tea rose, just adding some more C strokes to give it some depth, variety of color. All right, it's looking pretty good so far, folks. Gonna rinse my brush. And then I'm about to show you guys how to make the perfect circle on your paintings. I'm running out of True Blue, so I'm gonna add a little bit more to my palette real quick. I'm gonna take the end of my paintbrush. So here you see bristles, the bottom of my paintbrush. I'm gonna dip the bottom end into my paint, and then I'm gonna press and very lightly swirl on my canvas to create the perfect little circles. And they don't have to be perfect. I just found that this is a really great way to be able to control your circle shape if you want them to be perfect. Like we kind of talked about earlier, think the beauty of this painting is in the imperfection. So I kind of like that I made my polka dots look different on purpose, but it is your creation. So take with that information what you will and make it your own. And I like to have some of the polka dots kind of meeting right up to the edge of our canvas here, because I think it looks pretty and natural. We have one last thing to do with our liner brush. Take your favorite color that you used in the painting. I'm going to do my True Blue. And in the bottom right corner, make sure to sign your name. And with that, everybody, we have Garden Gallery. So again, don't forget that this live stream or class will be posted on Michael's YouTube page in about 24 hours for you to go back and review at your own leisure. This would make a really great Mother's Day party or a really great Mother's Day activity to do with the mom figure in your life. Thank you, Michaels, for allowing us to teach you guys this painting. Thank you to all of you for joining us. I had so much fun painting with all of you. I hope that you all had a great time as well. Until next time, we will see you guys later. Bye.